hello with Josh and have a chat with him about the history of the app and what he's been making, but also some really exciting other bits and bobs that are happening in audio AR. Then I'm going to have a little chat about Echoes, introduce you to the app, what it can do. If I set a foot wrong, Josh is going to correct me and kind of add to that with all the kind of technical information as we go as well, which was brilliant. And then I've got a Google Drive where I've got some audio files that we're hopefully going to put you into breakout rooms so that you can actually start to actually make a little experience in Echoes. And then at the end of the session, we'll all come back together. And then if we have any questions for Josh about the platform or our ambitions for it or what we think we might want to do, then we can do that then. So that's roughly the session as it will go today. One thing that would be really, really good to do just first off will be to go to echoes.xyz on your web browser and just to create an account on there so that later on you'll be able to, when you go into the breakout rooms, you'll be able to go straight into just building something with the creator app on Echoes. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, Josh. Josh, are you there amongst everyone?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, if you could tell us a little bit about Echoes and about how it came to be and what it is, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So yes, where to start with this? So Echoes came out of a locative audio project about 7 years ago. I was asked to create a sound walk, and at the time I didn't really know what a sound walk was. To me, it was walking with sound. Really, is this experience of walking around and listening to the environment around you. They had this locative audio project was presenting this new idea of sound, which was this GPS triggered audio. And I was really inspired by this idea. And at the time, there wasn't very much software to do these kind of experiences with, and the software that was out there was pretty limited. So we ended up creating our own platform to be able to do our project with. And that was in Hanoi at the time where I was living. And we created a sound walk which walked around the trade streets in Hanoi. And we recorded sounds which were specific to each of those streets. So as you walked around, you got, there's a street where they sell fans, for example. So you got the sound of fans as you walked along the street. And then there are we recorded some street cries and things like this, which were kind of starting to disappear from the city at the time. And so as you walked around the city, you got this kind of changing soundscape, which was at times linked to the space in which you were in, and also presented some novel sounds which you might not be able to hear on the streets by themselves. And I was, people were quite inspired by the concept of this, and we started getting inquiries, can we create our own walks? So over the years that followed, we started doing a couple more of our own sound walks, and people started coming to us and saying, okay, well, we want to publish this. We've got an existing sound walk, but it's just on an MP3 player. Can we, back in the day, or CD player or whatever it was, but we want to do it on your platform because we like the idea of having this GPS triggered audio. So that's where Echoes was born. And as people started signing up to the platform, we realized that there was a real need for this. My personal background, I'm studied as a musician. I'm a composer, performer, and I was really interested in the sonic possibilities of this, and the possibilities for creating reactive experiences which are really linked to the location where you are at that specific time, which is really, I guess, what I've struggled to kind of convey is the driving force behind Echoes. So it's, triggering audio with GPS unlocks this potential for having an experience which is intimately linked to the place where you are. So taking that as the starting point, you can create all sorts of things. So the most basic thing which comes to mind is the guided tours. So you're standing in front of the Statue of Liberty or whatever Houses of Parliament, and you get a guide who says you are standing next to the Houses of Parliament, and that's great because you're next to it. It's contextual and it's informative. But if you push it beyond that and you say, okay, well, I'm going to create a soundscape which creates something which is different from where you are at the moment, which transports you to a different place. Say, for example, taking you to the Brazilian rainforest in the middle of Times Square, which is what one project did a few years ago. You create this recontextualization of sound, and you're creating a dialogue between the listener and the place, and also you're able to bring in different ways of listening to your environment. So it's not just about giving people information; it's about thinking about sound in a different way, and that's where this idea of location and sound is different to just having an audio guide or listening to Spotify or whatever as you're walking around. It really is intimately linked to the place. So so ECHOES was born out of that, and so we have to kind of go into the basics of. I'm sure Barra's going to talk a little bit about this in a minute, but we have iOS and Android apps where you do the walks, and there's also a community of people publishing audio walks all over the world. I think we have more than 1,300 walks now all around the world, and thousands of people on the platform publishing stuff, which is really amazing. Something which turned from a community project right at the beginning up to where it is now, a kind of global project. And we also offer memberships which offer you a little bit more than what is available in the free platform. But as an artist and musician in the past, I've been really keen for the platform to be as free and open as possible. So you're very welcome to publish stuff. There's no need to buy a membership or anything like that, and I certainly won't push anybody to do that. But if you think there's extra features you want, there are memberships available for that. I was also going to talk a little bit about Walk, Listen, Create, which is another organization which may be a source of inspiration for you if you're thinking of working with locative audio AR, immersive audio, whatever you want to call it. walklistencreate.org. So Barra could probably put a link in the chat for everybody. It's a home for creative arts which employs some form of listening and walking, of which obviously ECHOES is quite a key member, but there are plenty of other platforms and places and types of experiences which fit under that umbrella of Walk, Listen, Create as well. It's also a really good place to go and get inspiration for existing pieces, works which are out there, to give you an inspiration for starting your own pieces. So there was, or there will be, in fact, in this September, a Sound Walk September, which is a month of walking, listening, creating experiences which cover a wide gamut of things. So it's really good if you're thinking of getting into this. It's a really good place to try and get your work publicized as well. They did hundreds of events last September, and lots of workshops, and they do these cafes as well, so where you can get inspired by really amazing people doing incredible things. Some of the works, so they also did some awards on that, which are documented on the website really well. I won't go into too much detail, but there are a couple of pieces on there. One is The Texture of Air, which is a really amazing audiovisual piece, which links a specific place, this hospital, and really uses an amazing combination of visuals and listening. I would suggest don't go and listen to it now. Go and listen to it afterwards. Sit down, have a cup of tea, and relax and watch and listen to this amazing piece. There's also another piece which is slightly different, which is Neverthere ao caminhar, which is Portuguese piece, which uses a combination of narrative, sound design, music, and field recording, kind of binaural sound as well, and brings them all together in this really beautiful piece, which they ask you to go on a short walk I think the pieces are only 6 minutes long each, something like this, but you can, the idea is it's on SoundCloud, it's totally free to download. So you just put your headphones on and go out for a walk and listen to this piece. But it's about walking and listening and poetry, and it's a really beautiful piece. So I would highly recommend going and having a listen to that. The production quality is absolutely...
What was the name of that piece again? Somebody was asking in the chat.
It's called Verde Uvir ao Caminhar. It's on the Soundwalk September Awards page on the Walk, Listen, Create. I can probably put a link in later. I can't do it right now though. But yeah, all of those pieces are on there, plus more, which there's some really cool stuff there. So yeah, a place to get inspired about locative media in general.
So one of the things about Echoes specifically is that it's very much about, you don't have the option of adding video. Is that an intentional thing to keep it about the sound and keep it focused on that part of the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the beginning, we've never offered video. It's something that a lot of people have asked for, but there are plenty of other platforms for doing, delivering video in some fashion. But our one kind of principal driving concept behind Echoes has been the phone in pocket experience. So not looking at your device while you're walking around and doing a tour. So it's getting away from the screen as much as possible. It's offering this kind of immersive audio experience, which is not putting on a pair of goggles and doing a VR experience. It's very much not that. It's about being in the place where you are and being conscious of that place, as well as having this intensive listening experience.
As I remember talking to particularly people in outdoor arts the first time when I came across Echoes, first of all, and having that discussion about as you start to add in digital technologies on top of experiences embedded in the landscape, whether these kind of platforms take you away from the experience of being in nature. But you're saying that the way Echoes is built is it's specifically to avoid that kind of phone gazing.
Yeah, it's definitely encourages or discourages phone gazing, I would say. And listening is a great way to have a kind of art experience without having to engage all of your senses at once. Obviously, it is engaging your sense of hearing, but there are ways of listening as well. If you use bone-conducted headphones, they're a good way of still being conscious of the audible environment, the auditory environment around you, without while still having a layer of digital content on top of that.
Absolutely. One of the projects that I was really inspired by was the project that you did with the Royal Parks, and that you created a piece in which you worked with the Royal College of Music, was it?
Yeah, Royal Academy of Music, yeah.
Royal Academy of Music, and you created these whole pieces of music that were in the same key, or keys that were sensitive of one another, and each species of tree in the park had its own song, and they overlapped and came together to create this real magical portal into the life of trees, and really examine that relationship with nature. And that was a really beautiful, really spoke to the reasons that you said at the beginning of why you started the app.
Yeah, if anybody gets a chance to go to Regent's Park, it's there waiting for you to try it. So yeah, that was a fantastic project. We collaborated with the Royal Parks and Royal Academy of Music on that one, and they commissioned some composition students to produce these audio walks, and each of them audio pieces, and each of them was given a specific tree, and then those compositions were placed on the trees, so that when you got within the vicinity of that tree, that audio composition would trigger. And like you say, they are designed so that they can overlap and intermingle, so that you get this changing soundscape as you walk through the trees. So again, it's this kind of mindful experience, which I really think brings out the best of locative audio.
Perfect. So we're going to please do, if any questions come up, do drop them in the chat. And Kerry, if you could flag me down as I'm talking, or I'll if Josh is talking, I'll try and bring it up, or yourself as well. What we're going to do now is just go through Echoes, introduce you to the platform, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get you making something. So let me. Perfect. Great. So let me just grab that up. So yeah, we've heard a little bit from Josh about what Echoes is all about. So if you're on the website, you should have already gone there. You can hit login in the top corner, create an account so that you can start actually making something with it when we get to that part of the workshop. Josh spoke a little bit earlier about the things that it can do. On the free account, it can do loads. So you're free to publish and sign up. There's no ads. You can have unlimited walks. You can also have different profiles, so you can publish under the different companies that you might be making work for. It works offline, which is brilliant in terms of working in areas that don't have particularly good phone signal. We're making a project in Wales at the moment, and it is a genuine concern that we have participants being able to download the walk before they go out to complete it. So that's a really useful thing. Rich media, so having images and text that are connected with your audio files as well. The app actually generates a QR code and a URL, which is the way that you then share your experience with audiences. So that's all done in the app for you. There's no coding required. You can use any language you want with it. It's available all over the world. Importantly for artists, and I think this speaks to Josh's, training as an artist, is the fact that it's very careful to make sure that you retain the rights to your content. And the Echoes team are actually really good at getting back to you when you when you don't understand their app, as I did when I started playing with it. They were very patient with me. So there's loads of things that it does as free. I've been using it as a free app. I haven't paid for a subscription yet. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, the payment really unlocks things like conditional playback, which is incredibly useful, and beacons. So beacons allows you to be able to hold experiences indoors, where the GPS signal wouldn't be reaching the audience. So it's great for stuff like in museums or in venues where they might not be able to use their GPS signal.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the memberships are really designed for if you're working on a specific project and you want a few extra features. The top level membership is really designed at people who have venues. Of course, at the moment, it's a bit tricky to have people indoors doing experiences, but yeah, the beacons are there as an alternative way to trigger content aside from the GPS. Not everyone is aware that GPS doesn't work indoors. It does work indoors in certain situations where the venues have been mapped, but such as shopping centers and the kind of big shopping centers like Bullring or whatever have indoor positioning, but you definitely can't rely on that. And that's where the beacons come in. It's a very easy way to trigger content without using the GPS functionality.
And beacons are relatively affordable. I think I was looking into it. Do they cost in the region of about £20 a beacon? Is that right, or have I completely made that up?
No, that's right. Yeah, so something like £20 a beacon. So, or some you can get for less. I think and they're also widely available as well. So if you go online, you can look on eBay and find some beacons that are pretty cheap if you want to try that. But yeah, it's only really useful if you're going to do something indoors, or you want something where you have super reliable triggering for content.
Perfect. So one plug that I just want to give in terms of creating content for Echoes is Audacity is an open source sound editor that is really useful. The one thing that Audacity doesn't do is export in the specific file type that you need for Echoes. So Echoes works on an M4A or an ACC file format, and with the free membership, that's the only file format that it will receive. So Audacity, you'll just need to download an optional FFmpeg library, and there are various different links for that, which I'll put in I can send this document out at the end to everyone that's here today. So I'll send out the different links for downloading that plugin for Audacity to allow you to export in that file type. So, hello.
Do you want questions as they come in? Or
yeah, sure.
Okay, there's a couple of questions here just about beacons, and if you could tell us more about beacons and where do you buy beacons, and also with beacons indoors, what's the minimum distance or radius?
Perfect. I mean, Josh, is that something you'd be able to field?
Yeah, sure. You can buy beacons online if you just Google iBeacon purchase or buy iBeacon, something like that. There's a place in the UK called beaconzone.co.uk, which sells a huge range of beacons, but you're definitely not limited to that. Anything which supports the iBeacon standard, because there are a lot of different types of beacons out there, but iBeacon is the most common one. Those they come as a kind of small box. I did have one here somewhere. I think it's gone. They're about this size, or even smaller. You can get ones kind of coin sized. In terms of actual, how the triggering works is that you have to put the details of the beacon into the creator. So when you log into the creator, instead of using location for the trigger, you switch it to beacon, and then you add in the details of the beacon, which should come with the beacon, or you can get an app which will tell you the details of the beacon. It's quite straightforward. And then the triggering, you can get the triggering down to a few centimeters if you want. So basically, like the phone touching the beacon, so it will trigger. Or you can set it to basically the range of the beacon. So the new beacons, I think, go up to something like 300 meters. So you can have anything from 1 centimeter to 300 meters in terms of triggering. However, bear in mind that the beacons trigger not in a circle, as you would hope, but in a sphere. So if you have them in a venue like a museum or something like this, if you put them on the floor in the museum, they're going to trigger on the floor below and the floor above as well. So you have to be careful about placement with them. Hope that helps.
Kerry, request from me. My computer is betraying me and it won't allow me to spotlight Josh. So as much as I'm trying to stop spotlighting myself, it won't let me. So if Josh is talking, please do remove the spotlight from me and allow people to be able to see someone else.
I will do. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if this has been covered, but I've got a question saying what type of beacon and what format, but I wondered if, Josh, as you've already covered that.
I think so.
Yeah. And just one last one, a bit more detail regarding 4G and 3G signal poor sites. How accurate can the triggering be when running off GPS alone? Planning an outdoor walk in remote signal poor sites. Must the project be downloaded in advance?
So there's two different questions. So the first one is if there's poor cell coverage, i.e. data coverage in the area, I would strongly suggest encouraging people to download it. So you cannot require people to download it. They will always have to be able to stream it as well. But I would put a strong recommendation to download it before going out on the actual walk itself. There is poor signal in this location. Please download before going out. So that means that once you've downloaded it, it means that you should be able to put your phone into airplane mode and then just use GPS to trigger the content. In terms of accuracy, GPS content is dependent on a few factors. So the first factor is the phone and whatever GPS chip it's got in it. The newer iPhones have GPS A or higher chips and support. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much technical detail, but there's a European satellite network called Galileo, which should give you down to 1 meter accuracy with GPS, and it offers far faster fixes, but you have to know if the phone supports that. But you cannot rely on anybody having a particular chip. They may have a 10-year-old Android, which has terrible GPS in it and may take 5 minutes to get a fix, or may not even get a fix at all. So the thing would be to try to test with different devices if you're really worried about only having GPS in that particular location. Try to test with a really bad phone or really old phone. And I would say that in terms of accuracy, you can normally aim for something like 3 meters of accuracy, or 3 to 5 meters maximum accuracy. But if somebody's on an iPhone, the latest version of iPhone, in fact, anything above iPhone 6s, they should get 1 meter accuracy. However, that's definitely not a hard and fast standard.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So, yeah, I'll send this document on with those links if that's useful. A lot of software that you do pay for does export in this file type, but if you're getting into it and looking for something free, then it's a good place to start. So I just wanted to touch on a project that we did that was very simple, that give you an example of the type of thing that you can do, and it'll also take us through the website so that I can show you exactly how to put a walk together or an experience together. So in lockdown in October, November, we worked with 13 to 16-year-olds in London, working with a spoken word artist called Amanita Francis, creating pieces about home, what home means to people at a time when we're spending a lot more time at home, looking beyond kind of what it is as a physical location, but what is the story of home for different people in London. So we decided that we wanted to create, pull these experiences together into green spaces near the different participants' homes. So we have one in Brockley up in Hilly Fields, we have one in Beckenham Place Park. So places where their family, their friends are able to go and experience the work that they did in a socially distanced way. So we called it Home London. We also did a version Home Cardiff, across in Cardiff, so that some people could listen to it over there, which is one thing that's great. If you do have quite a simple experience, you can have multiple locations across the country, so you can have relationships with various venues, and you can program the experience in simultaneously at those different venues across the country, just by creating a different experience and dropping in the files in the maps and in green spaces or in urban spaces close to those venues or close to those communities. So when you log into the app, you'll have all of your projects there. There'll also the add new walk banner, which is how you would then start a new walk. If you want to edit a previous walk, you just click the little pen down the bottom. You can see that each experience as you log in has an opportunity for an image banner, so that you can put your artwork for your show or your experience, your title, and then a piece of text describing what the experience is all about. This similarly, when you actually go into the echoes, when you go into these locations and they pop up as people walk into them, you then have a chance for individual pieces of artwork for each individual sound file, and also an individual space for text for that sound file as well, which is great when it comes to access. If you want to be able to work with a community that provide access for people who are hard of hearing or maybe deaf, then you can have the text of what's being spoken in that space pasted into that text box that will they'll have access to once they're in that physical location. One of the things that we played with as well was working with a company called Taking Flight in Wales, and we wanted to be able to offer BSL for each of those as well. And you can actually put links in that text as well. So if you wanted to do a BSL version of the sound file, then you could drop it in as a link to your video provider of choice, YouTube, Vimeo. And as they walk into that location, they'll get that notification, and then they can click out to YouTube or Vimeo to get the BSL video as well. And so just a way of being able to deliver access through I guess the golden thread of echoes. So when you then begin a walk, or when you're editing a walk, this is the screen that you'll see. You'll see on the right hand side of the page there's a plus and minus. That's for zooming in and out of the map. You can also use a postcode or an address to zoom into a map. So if you put your postcode in there now, it'll zoom to your location. There are three little boxes below the plus and minus. There is a line which we'll talk a little bit about later. It's about testing your work and being able to actually experience it remotely so that you don't have to go out into the rain every time you want to test a change that you've done to your walk. There is also the polygon, and there's the circle. So the circle is the default echo. You can make it bigger or smaller around a physical location. As you can see on the map here, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. They're very easy to resize. If you want, you can also use a polygon, so you're able to create a custom shape for your experience as well, that might fit on a precise piece of grass, or around a specific neighborhood. That is the only downside to polygons over circles in my from what I can see, is spatialized sound. So spatialized sound will not work with a polygon, but it will work with a circle. So if you use circles only, then you'll be able to click in the settings, which I'll show you in a little bit, spatialized sound, which will allow the sound to be louder at the center than it is at the extremities. So that's really useful if you're building a cityscape of sounds. You're walking down, and maybe you're walking past a shop and you hear, or maybe it's an old bakery and you have the sounds of the bakery, and then you can hear in the distance another space and another sound of a community, and then as you walk by they get louder. Or say if you want to give a voice to a statue or to a tree, so that the voice is quieter as it's further away, and as you approach the object it gets louder. So that's
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry. Can you layer things? So could you have like a more general sound, and then when you get really close to the statue it starts?
Absolutely, yes. So you can have, you could have, what you can't do, as far as I understand, with echoes, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, is control the volume of a sound. That would be controlled when you export the file. So you just, like, if you had a general sound that was underneath, you just set the sound volume as quieter before you export it, and then you bring it in. So all of these circles on the map could be contained within a larger circle that would have a low rumbling atmosphere sound, and then that would be there, and that would be looped and happening the entire time that someone's in the experience, and then you walk into these other circles and then they activate. So yes is the answer, I think. Is there any other questions on that?
Barra, I was just going to say about layering. In fact, that raised the point about layering. So you can yes, you can have basically as many sounds as you want layered in echoes. It's dependent on the device though. So again, older devices are going to be able to play fewer sounds than newer devices, but you could have 4 or 5, you should be able to have 4 or 5 sounds playing simultaneously without too much of a problem.
Was there another question? There was a couple of voices there. Was there another question before we carry on? Or if there is, pop it in the chat, and we'll come back to it in a second. Great. So as you then start to edit your echoes, you'll see that if you look at the screen, there is under the blue banner published changes, there's walk echoes lines. So if you click along to echoes, when you create your different echoes, they'll be stored there. And then when you want to edit them, you just click the pen, and that will allow you in to edit a specific sound. So each individual echo can have a title, so you can have introduction, or you can give them and bespoke artwork as well. So you see here, there's a title, there's a description, and then you have these two options, hide player and hide zone. Now these are really great options. Hide player means that so if they are doing the experience and they click on an echo as they're in the experience, a player will come up allowing them to play the file. But you can hide the player so that the sound file only plays when they're in that space automatically with the settings that you have set. So it means that they can't play the file and stop the file themselves, but it responds in the way that you've programmed it, I think is my understanding of that. And hide zone is really useful if you're doing an experience in which, so one of the things about the free version is you don't have conditional programming. So you can't program it to say you have to listen to the first part of the story to get the location for the second part of the story. So, or sound file 2 doesn't play unless you listen to sound file 1. So we don't have that functionality within within the free version, but hide zone gives you an opportunity to have it in a way. So what it does is it makes the blue circles invisible to the audience. So what you can do is you can give them a physical location for the start of the show, they get their introduction, and then they get a clue for where the next position is. So you say, give them a clue which says go to the church, and then when they walk to the church, that file then begins to play. So it just means that you can hide where those locations are and provide a bit more of a narrative journey to where they need to go next, rather than them just looking at the map and going to where the blue shape is. Yes.
Just on going back to multiple layers, how does the timing sync on multiple layers?
So it depends, I guess, on the settings that you have, but it will be about when you enter the zone. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, there's no timing sync whatsoever. So it's when, like you say, Barra, when you enter the zone is when the audio triggers. So we can't offer any form of synchronization within the creator. We were looking at doing like music synchronization, but there's a lot of issues with that. But yeah, it's basically whenever the listener triggers it is when it plays.
And depending on the settings that you give to that, you know, a sound file might, if you enter a zone and then leave, it might pause, or it might stop completely, or it might reset. So there are all those issues about whether, you know, how you enter and leave a space, which we're just coming on to. So the settings that you have for the individual files then in the free version are play loop. So whenever if you're in a specific location and you're standing there, then it will continue, the file will continue to loop as long as you stand in that blue sphere or blue shape. One shot, it just means it only plays once and then it'll stop. I had a question, Josh. With one shot, it will only play once per entry to the echo. So if you leave the echo and come back in again, then it will play once again. Is that correct?
No, one shot it'll only play once in that walk. So it's for a piece of, you know, if you have a piece of dialogue, you don't want it to play twice. Mm-hmm. So it will trigger once, and once you leave that zone, as long as that audio is played, it will not then re-trigger it.
So being careful with that, it might be good to then click play complete, so that if they do happen to leave the echo, then at least the sound file will play to completion. Would that be right?
I've just got a question from Michelle here. Does the audio pause if one leaves the blues zone?
So there is a pause and resume when entering. That is something that isn't on the free version. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, so that's one of the frequently asked things, which is actually on the membership options. So if you, on the free version, if you go into a zone and then leave it, it will then start playing again from the beginning. However, if you have a membership and you put on resume, then it will start playing. If you have enabled resume, then it will start playing from where you left off.
And the last thing that you can tick on your audio file is spatialization, which is that thing of being it louder towards the center of the circle. And again, we were talking about accuracy. So if you have use spatialization so you have some bleed or around an object, is quite a good way of just dealing with that possible inaccuracy of a couple of meters, just by kind of making it a bigger space, but using spatialization is a nice way of doing that. So once you've dropped your sound files in, also just to say here that the little square with the piece of paper with the speaker in it, that's where you click to upload your audio file, and just that your audio file needs to be in ACC or M4A audio format. Once you've dropped in your audio files, you've chose the settings that you want to use, then it's just about publishing it, making it available. It will automatically be in draft form. So need to go to private or public. So if you just go to to private and hit activate, then you will be able to then test it using your phone. So once you want to test it, you just scroll back up and you will be then click on QR code. And once you click on that, it'll provide you with the QR code or with the URL. So once you have the URL, just send it to your phone, download the app on your phone, and then when you click that link, your walk will open automatically on your phone. So that will be, and you'll be able to go out and you'll be able to test it then. So, and once it's on your phone, it looks a little bit like this. So your physical location is denoted by a darker blue dot with a white line around it, and that is your GPS position. And then you can see it in relation to the different echoes if you have them visible to your audience.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay. Does the advanced version support playback of B format audio? Or does it need to be down mixed to binaural?
That's a really interesting question. So I saw there are a couple of people on this call who are Ambisonics followers or Ambisonics gurus, maybe. So we don't currently support B format. However, it is in the works. And I know there's a lot of interest in it at the moment. When we do support B format, it will probably be offline only for the moment. We do have it in beta on iOS. So if you wanted to try out binaural spatialization, Ambisonics spatialization, you can contact me, drop me an email and tell me you're interested in using Ambisonics, and we can enable it for you. So then what that would enable is upload of B format files, native B format files. We also potentially have support for high order as well. So you could then upload a high order file and then it would actually decode it to binaural and rotate the recording. So you could have, the binaural rendering would then spatialize according to your head position. So yeah, interesting question. There was also another question as well. But yes, if you're interested in Ambisonics, drop me an email and we can get you sorted, but it is only in beta at the moment.
Yeah, the other one was about permissions. Can you create an audio experience without getting any permissions if no copyright issues?
Yeah, so the only thing we say is that you need to have permission for the audio yourself. If any local council has issues with this, really, two fingers to them, because it's the platform is free, it's open, anybody can say anything they want on it within reason, as long as it's not disrupting anybody's human rights or saying stuff that's going to get you put in prison. I totally support whatever wacky ideas you have. So go out there, create something crazy. There's some really amazing content on the platform already. So yeah, just go do it. Nobody's going to stop you.
The one thing I wanted, so we've kind of talked a lot about it already, so I'll skip kind of through it so we can get on to making something, is spatialized sound. So I started to play with some cellos in a chord, which will be in the file that you will have access to in a second. And then a friend of mine who's a composer put 12 different instruments together that layer to create a single soaring chord. So I'm going to give you that to have a go with spatialized sound and about how that works. From what Josh said about 5 different sounds, I wonder whether I've got a bit over the top, and why my line isn't necessarily working is possibly due to the fact that I've overloaded it. But each of what I found with this as a walk around the place that I'm living at the moment is that I always try to have 2 instruments playing at the same time, so they're layered over each other, and then if you walk around the road around this triangle, then you get 2 to 3 instruments fading in around each other. And then if you walk on the grass in the middle of the quad, essentially of the triangle, then all the instruments play together. So it's just it was a fun experiment. And Joseph Hardy put the different files together, and they'll be in the Google Drive for you to play with, so you can have a go at spatialized sound as well. So this is the link to the Google Drive for the sound files. Let me just copy it across for you, or try and copy it across. Let me just open it, and I'll. That's good, isn't it? Let me get that up. So what we're going to do in just a second is go into breakout rooms to start to just make something. So if you have any questions really quickly while I get the Google Drive together, just put them in the chat, and before we get started. Any questions about making things, if you're looking at so get logged into the ECHOES platform, and if you have any questions now, please fire away.
There's a question just come in, and I don't know if, Josh, maybe you can field this for us. It's just really about headphones, and thinking about having children and they might not have headphones. If you to use a headphone splitter or connect two sets of Bluetooth headphones to a phone, would this affect the sound quality, or could this?
Yeah, I think headphone splitters should be fine if you've got 2 pairs of headphones. Bluetooth audio, I'm not 100% sure that you can have more than one output at the same time. It's probably going to default to the first set of headphones you've got connected. So on Android as well, you can only select one audio output at a time. So that might be an issue. I don't know if there are such things as Bluetooth headphone splitters, but you could certainly look into that. There was also a question about safety as well. Safety is an interesting one with audio walks. You have to. We don't provide any safety instructions as default, but I would recommend that if you're authoring a walk which is going to cross roads, try to provide as much information before the person starts the walk or during the walk via the audio as possible. So just a general reminder, be aware of your surroundings. We did that for the Royal Parks experience, even though it's in the middle of a park, just to be absolutely sure that somebody doesn't wander off while, immersed in the sound of the compositions and get hit by a car. So we obviously don't provide any navigation in the app. It's all done via audio and looking at the map. So it's precautionary rather than a real safety issue.
Great. So there are 2 links that have just gone into the chat. One is to the Google Drive, and one is for the Discord. So the Discord is brand new, but it will be the best way to communicate with myself, or hopefully Josh, if Josh signs in as well, because we're going to be in about I think about 20 breakout rooms, so we probably won't get around to everyone, but if you use the Discord, then you'll be able to chat with us there, and also be able to vocalize and talk to the other people in your group about what you're up to. The Google Drive has some audio files. It has a bit of a poem that I hastily recorded this morning. It has the cello chord, it has the 12 instrument chord, and it also has the files from the Home project, which is the introduction and the various pieces created by the young people. So if you go in there, they'll give you some ACC files that you can quickly drop into ECHOES and just have a play with and create something. So if you've got any questions, ask on the Discord, and what we'll do is we'll come back together again in about 20 minutes. So give 20 minutes to try and play something. If you can get outside and test it out, please do. No, 20 minutes is a bit of a tall order. And then we'll come back here at 5:20 for a little bit of a sum up and any last questions for Josh and myself about ECHOES. So if we get you into the breakout rooms now.
Well, I got a cello drone in my garden and I'm chuffed with that because I'm 44 and I managed to make it work. So
Yay!
Yay! But this is epic. I'm so excited for this. It's incredible, and the generosity of what it does for free is just mind blowing, and I'm so excited for this. So thank you.
Not at all. Thank you to Josh and the Echoes team for putting it all together. It's yeah, it was really lovely to hear him talk about it, and the fact that, you know, that it's come from a very kind of artist-led place, which is really, really exciting as well. And the fact that it's going to remain free, which is with the Discords, that if you do want to continue kind of as a little community making work and talking to each other about your trials and tribulations on Echoes, there is a thread, Geolocated Audio, so do feel free to start some chats there about what you're up to, and yeah, any questions that you have as well. As I said, there is the Echoes guys are really good at getting back to you as well. So if you do have any questions, then do fire them away to those guys as well. But just as a kind of a peer-to-peer helping each other out, the Discord should be a great place to do that. So Andrea, you can add multiple sounds in one echo, but you would need to do it in a sound editing software. So you can build a sound escape in the software and then put it in, or you can overlay sounds. So you could have two sounds that existed in the same place, if that makes sense. Also, Richard's been making sound walks in Bath. Is that right, Richard?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yes. Hi. How are you doing?
Thank you.
Great. You've been making some really interesting stuff using Echoes already, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you working on currently?
Well, I did a piece. I've been doing a long-running project at a burial ground, and it's about kind of giving a new presence, renewing presence there, and obviously with the huge amount of people dying from COVID at the moment, it's developed a kind of poignancy around that. So we've been reading the names of people who are buried, people who died of poverty in that burial ground, and that's a kind of an ongoing project. I've got a whole load of new files to stick up there, and this has been really useful. I didn't know that you could do the layering. That's a whole new one, so I'm really keen on sort of exploring that, kind of using a drone to denote the space and then coming into the specifics. And yeah, and there's other projects brewing. I'm really keen to network with anybody who fancied kind of playing with the technology that's Bristol, Bath, Southwest kind of area. I think there's a lot that we can learn and share as we test it out and push it forward.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. No, I'd love to yeah, keep in touch and hear how things go. It seems like people have had real success tonight, which has been really, really lovely. Is there any kind of final questions or before we kind of wrap up? But I would just encourage everyone to keep in touch and as much as possible, use the Discord. It's nice to have other people who are struggling with the same technology that you are, and being able to ask questions and be inspired by each other. So it'd be lovely to see you all on there. Yeah, totally. Around the moving the circles, it's just a quirk of the system. So if you move your circle and replace it, a shadow of it remains there until you save the file and just refresh the browser. But yeah, it's just a quirk of the software. Was there another question, Hannah? Thank you, Anna, and good luck with it. It's really exciting. Really, there's loads of opportunities and exciting. Yeah, it's really exciting. I've been talking to a composer that I work with, and we both got very excited about the possibilities of composition, of layering files, and then having moments in the music where you can actually go into a different key as you move across a different path and things like that. There seems to be vast opportunities for composition, which is great. And thank you very much for coming, everyone. It was really, really lovely session tonight. So thank you for being here. We've got a couple of other sessions coming up over the next little while. Next week, we've got a performance actually by a company called Exit Productions, which takes place entirely in Google Docs. It's about recreating the world in a better, healthier image, and it's about placing the choices in the audience's hands. So there'll be 2 tickets that you can get. Both are free. You can either be a demigod and be a decision maker, or you can be a believer, and you can watch this unfold and send them your prayers and your suggestions. I will pop in a link to our website and a link to the Discord as well in the chat in just a moment. All of the events are on our website, the Discord is actually on our website as well. So if you go to our website, which is neverthere.xyz, there's a link to our Discord, which you can click there as well. We've also got 2 other sessions coming up. One is about public art, installation art. We've got the brilliant Luke Jerram coming to talk about the possibilities of public art for performers of live, makers of live performance. So Luke Jerram and Dave Charlesworth. Dave Charlesworth is also an artist who works a lot with MA students at the RCA. So we've got Luke really talking about the possibilities of public art in these kind of huge spectacles that he creates, but also Dave looking at kind of those first steps that we can be making as artists into that area. We've also got Arduino for artists. So we've got Nye and Michelle, who one is a visual artist and the other is a creative technologist, and they're going to be doing a workshop on Arduino and the possibilities that holds for creating interactive installations and interactive experiences using the Arduino platform. So those are the 3 sessions coming up over the rest of February. So please do, all of them are free. They're all part of this collaboration between Neverthere and Bath Spa Productions about kind of, offering discussions and skills workshops and performances that hopefully give us a bit of inspiration about what we as makers of live performance can be doing to connect with audiences during this time. But thank you all very, very much. In the chat now, you'll find the website, neverthere.xyz. If you go there, you'll also get the link for the Discord and you can sign in from there. But thank you very, very much for tonight. And if you have any questions, please just do email myself or Kerry. Both of our emails are in the chat. But have a wonderful evening and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.